intercessor is praying for me so that my faith won't fail me in this time of darkness. Satan had me in the sifter, and all around me there's shaking going on. All around me there's chaos going on in my life. But the one thing that I understand is that Christ, my intercessor, is on the case. You might as well admit it this morning. You've had those times. You might as well say to yourself that you've been in those times when the only thing that you've been able to do is moan and groan because your life has been turned into chaos. Your very soul is being tested. Your spirit is weak. So your core of your being is weak. The very core of your life is being put through the test. So the only thing you're able to do is hold on with your fingernail tips. The only thing that you're able to do is hold on, as they say, by the skin of your teeth. But Christ, the one who prayed to his Father, if it is your will, let this cup pass from me. But nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. But Christ, the one who knelt in the Garden of Gethsemane and prayed and sweat dropped so hard it looked like drops of blood. But Christ, the one who stood outside of Lazarus' tomb and said, Father, let this thing be done so that they'll believe that you sent me. And after calling 1, 2, 3 times, Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. He got up and walked out of the tomb. But Christ prayed for you, and your faith failed you not.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Then Christ told Peter, he said, when you are converted. Converted means turn. It means changed, recovered, restored back to your true self. When your feet have been firmly rooted back on the path of righteousness. See, when Peter was sifted, it was Peter that denied Jesus 3 times. When Peter was sifted, it was Peter that went back to becoming a fisher of fish and not a fisher of men. It was Peter who was all bad in the garden and took the sword and cut the guard's ear off. It was Peter who was scared and he could only go to the door of the high priest's palace and couldn't go in. It was Peter who began to sink into the water when he was walking to Christ on it because his focus got taken off of Jesus. It was Peter who would not lay down his life for Christ like he said he would because his faith wasn't where it needed to be. Oh, but when Peter became converted, when Peter went through the sifting, when Peter got finished with what Satan was doing to him, then Peter became the rock that Christ could build his church upon, and the gates of hell could not come against it. Then Peter became that fisher of men. See, he laid down his natural fishing pole and he picked up his spiritual rod and reel, and he came to go into the highway of his jailer to being Christian. Peter became the man. Peter became an apostle of the greatest capital after he was converted, after his sifting. Peter stood on the foundation that was Christ. Peter was able to do that because Christ prayed that his faith failed him not. And that is the very same thing that you and I are called to do after we have been sifted, after we've gone through the process, after the crank has been turned on us and we've gone through that metal screen. That's what we've been called to do. But why? Why are we called to come back and strengthen our brethren? Why does Jesus want us to do that?
Come on. Come on.
We asked ourselves why.
That's all right.
Jesus, why do we need to step back and tell our brother what we've been through? Why do we need to step back and testify and put our business in the street? Blessed are they who do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and enter in through the gates into the city. You won't have to climb over. You won't have to take wire cutters and make a little entrance so you can slip through, slide through, and walk in through the gates. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and adulterers and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. That's why we've been called to come back and strengthen our brethren. That's why we've been called to stand up and keep it 100, as they say. Outside of the city, outside of the kingdom are dogs. Now I'm not talking about the dogs that we keep as pets and we put them on a leash and we have to feed them and wash them. I'm not talking about the term that Jews use when they're talking about Gentiles that they feel are filthy. I'm talking about Jezebels.